Hey, what's going on guys, Khraze here, and today is Friday 21st. This is going to be the last beta weekend for Marvel's Avengers, but it's also going to be absolutely free for all of the available platforms. In this video I want to talk about all of that, all of the fixes that have been added from the previous beta weekends, as well as some of the stuff that you might want to do in game if you want to make the most out of the beta time that you have available. If you enjoyed this video at any point, it would be awesome if you left a like on it, as well as subscribing for more awesome content like this, and let's jump right into it. Anyway, if you head over to the PS4 or Xbox One store, it's very likely that you will see that the beta is available over there. You can go ahead and download it right now in advance before it actually goes live with the servers and whatnot. And the same goes with Steam. If you prefer to play it on the PC, you should be able to find it on Steam right there if you search it in the Games tab. Now, I want to talk about some of the fixes that have been added. A lot of people have been complaining, especially about that motion blur, especially about that camera shake, and a ton of other performance issues, including for the matchmaking. And rest assured that there have been a number of patches that have been fixing a lot of those, and we have two of them available. One of them is for the consoles, which is patch 1.40, and there's also another one for Steam, which is patch 1.50, but they basically fix the same issues. Now, I will talk about the major fixes that came up with these. So I'm going to talk about the fact that in the settings menu, you now finally have an option to adjust camera shake sensitivity for all of the available platforms. Now, I'm not sure about you, but for me it was absolutely unbearable. At the very least, when recording with OBS, even the footage was absolutely wrecked because of that shake. So it was basically unusable, and I had to re-record everything when I was recording things off of the Steam version of the game. Nonetheless, they've also decreased the amount of motion blur during sprint and flight. This was another major point of concern. I kinda wish they added a full-on button to fully disable that, but I will take that for now. And on top of that, across all of the platforms, there's been a number of other optimizations and improvements, both to matchmaking as well as to the overall game's performance. With that being said and done, let's also talk about some platform-specific problems with the PC version of the game. And to be more specific, we had that dynamic screen resolution previously that was causing a lot of FPS drops for a lot of people, including myself, which I'm using quite a powerful GPU. But this has been addressed, and you can now use it, and not just that, you can also combine it with that HBAO+, so it's not going to cause any graphical issues anymore. Another big one for me was that microphone muting problem. I think that was caused by that push-to-talk feature in the game that was basically affecting the entire system once you would open up the game itself. So now that issue was supposedly fixed, and you shouldn't see your microphone being muted anymore when starting up the game. So there's a bunch of other fixes in there. I'm gonna leave it at it. I'm going to post a link down below that you can follow, but these are the bigger ones that I wanted to talk about. Now let's talk about some of the things that you should probably do in the beta if you want to make the most out of it. Of course, you should know that none of the progress is going to carry over to the full game, so everything is going to be reset to 0 once the game gets released in September, but there are still a ton of things you can do to make the most out of the 2 days beta weekend that we have available, especially if you're like me and you're trying to search for cool loot with awesome perks and kind of try to make the best build possible in the beta. So one of the first things that I did in one of the beta weekends was playing on brutal right from the very beginning. I know that sounds crazy, but you can set the settings of the main story campaign to any difficulty at any given point by simply going into the options menu, gameplay, and choosing the difficulty over there. Now this will do two things. On one side, yes, it will make encounters and enemies more difficult, but on the other hand, it will also give you much better rewards. So instead of the power level 6 items you would normally get, this will give you about 17, even 22 by the time you finish the second mission. So it's basically going to be a way bigger difference, and you can get out of the first campaign missions with a huge power level spike that will make Kamala really powerful. And this doesn't just apply to enemy drops and boss drops and the rewards at the end of the missions, but also for the rewards from the chest. And here is the second tip that I have for you guys, which is something that you should do right as you reach the Chimera for the very first time. So when you reach the Chimera for the very first time, if you didn't already, now is the time to at the very least activate that brutal difficulty, since this is going to make all of those chests also scale up to that level. And as I've said, there are 7 of these in total on the Chimera. The first one is on the left side of your room just as you come out of it, and you will see it it over there, you can go ahead and open it up. The next one is basically in front of it, so you're going to reach this door, it's going to open up, and on the left side again you will see that there's another chest right there. And if you climb down into the main section with the war table in the middle, you will see that just around the corner there are two additional chests. So one of them is in the middle right across the war table. You can open it up, it's this golden chest that will also provide 2 items most of the time, but then there's a third one you can go ahead and open up right here next to this wall, just as you walk across the previous chest you just opened up. Once you have opened these, go right next to the war table itself and you will see right next to this wall that there is a third chest inside, and you can find 2 more on the outside. One of them is going to be right beneath these stairs in the laboratory that is right next to the war table room, and then there is going to be this one that is in the main hall that has all of the rooms out there with all of the Avengers. So basically these are all you can find in the Chimera. Now let's talk about some of the other rewards you can find in this game. Of course there are many ways to get loot in the game, but some of the best ones are through these elite aim units, as I've said in one of the previous videos. Now I definitely urge you to go ahead and check out my previous video that I made on how to get legendary loot in the game, because it explains a little bit further, but there are basically 3 main missions that you need to pay attention to that will hold these elite aim units. So these are to tame a Titan, Stark Realities, and enter the Avengers, but there's actually a 4th one that is also very lucrative, maybe even better than the previous ones, and that is the Snow Tundra region. And I will have to give a huge shout out to everybody in the chat who helped me during the last live stream we did last week, and we talked about that over there when we unlocked the Snowy Tundra region. But basically you're going to go in this Stark Realities mission. You do have an elite aim unit over there, so if you go on the other side of the main gate and on the road on the left side, eventually at the end of it you will see that there's a bunch of enemies spawning, as well as the elite aim unit, which can basically be any type of enemy. It can be like a dreadbot or one of those humanoid enemies that have all kinds of superpowers, but they also have a high chance to drop legendaries or at the very least epic grade quality. But what you can do instead is ignore that main gate with the main objective and instead pass it and head over into the other part of the jungle. And here is where you will see that a radar pops up on the left side of your screen, and you can follow it to this formation of trees right here, and you will see that there's an activation button you can press, and what this does is it basically opens up this secret bunker that has an underground facility. So once you do that, what you have to do is to follow the prompt on your screen. This is going to bring you to this marked chest right here, and once you open it up there's a really high chance to get like really decent gear, a bunch of materials, but most important, you are going to get that vault key in there as well. So once you've done that, you can get back to the war table main screen, and you will see that there's an additional location that has just opened up, which is that Snow Tundra region I was talking about. If you played through the main story campaign, there's a high chance you already played through this, as one of the main missions basically brings you to it, but now this opened up as a secondary mission, and not just that, it also has a ton of chests in it, a ton of enemies to defeat, and even more so, it also holds 1 elite aim unit. So what I recommend you guys doing is go ahead and use Iron Man for the very first time, so that you can get accustomed with the locations. Basically you will find a ton of chests laying around, like for example the first one, you find it right across this facility. You will see that there is a 2nd floor that you can reach really easily with Iron Man, and one of the chests can spawn either right outside of it, inside the facility, or on one of these suspended crates. The most important though are these secret facilities right here that once you open up you will have some chests inside with guaranteed loot drops. To open these up you will need to complete a series of puzzles, which are usually in the form of pressure plates or buttons that you need to press or kick in, and once you've done that you can enter the facilities and open up those chests for the guaranteed loot drops. To see these buttons, what you can do is bring up that tactical awareness mode by pressing arrow up on the controller or pressing V on your keyboard, and this is going to highlight all of the relevant buttons that you need to press. If you start with Iron Man, as I've said, it's going to be super easy to ignore all of those enemies that spawn around the facility and instead focus on opening it up and getting the loot out of it. But I will also pay close attention to some of these red chests. You can definitely see them from afar, especially if you fly really high up, because you can see them at the top of buildings, at the top of structures, but even more so at the base of some of these structures structures from pretty far up, and you can also get some really decent gear from them as well. Now anyway, on a final note, the final thing that I recommend you guys doing is to not rush for the maximum power level, which is power level 45 on the beta. Now on the beta the power level is capped at 45, in the full game it's going to be 300, but you won't be able to fully upgrade your gear if you reach that cap of 45, which means that you won't be able to unlock some of the additional perks on level 45 gear, and some of these can actually be quite powerful, very entertaining and very amazing, especially those elemental particle damage that can completely change your build. So what I instead recommend is to play around level 30 to 35 and just stay around that, and from that point on only play on normal difficulty, since the enemies will still scale up to your power level as it is. And from that point on I recommend going back to those elite aim units, as I've said, since they are the only ones that can drop legendaries in the beta currently, and you can go ahead, farm these over and over again, get accustomed with the legendary loot, and even more so with the powerful effects on them. Again, I've covered this in a previous video, so I will link to that as well. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video at any point, then let me know by leaving a like on this video, subscribing, and also activating that notification bell to get these videos as soon as I post them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.